Hi, welcome to Senior Strategies. My name is Amy Decker, and I am Director of Client Services with Senior Helpers. We have a guest today named Stacy Davis. She is a nutritionist, and she's going to talk about the importance of good nutrition for our seniors as well as staying hydrated. I know living down in South Florida, it is extremely hot right now. So getting them to drink is sometimes can be a challenge, but especially those with memory impairment, even getting them to eat and want to eat can be a challenge too. And really, nutrition affects our entire body. So we're looking forward to what she's got to tell us and to learn more about how to eat healthy and that it doesn't have to be boring, that it can be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Welcome to Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver with Amy Decker and Shane Silver. Join us on each show where you're going to enjoy a lively conversation that's going to connect you to the tools and resources that you'll need to coordinate care for the seniors in your life. We are so happy that you joined us. Hi, welcome to the show, Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver. Today we're going to have Stacy Davis on, who is the owner of the company Flavorful Nutrition. She will talk about how important good nutrition is for our seniors, especially those that are in the early onset of dementia, that forget to eat, don't want to eat, or don't have an appetite. Also, living in South Florida, we have an issue with keeping them hydrated, and it's been so hot down here that's really important that we stay on top of that. And so she's going to talk about how keeping them healthy by way of nutrition doesn't have to be boring, but it can be exciting. So welcome to the show, Stacy, and tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into this.
Yeah, so I'm Stacy. I live down here also in South Florida, but I'm originally from New York and couldn't stand the cold and the snow anymore. And I didn't want to wait till I retired to move down here.
Good, same.
So I packed up the car and headed south. So I love it down here. Been here 20 years. But what got me into nutrition was, long story, very short, is that when I was 13 years old, my grandmother told me, if you eat pasta, you'll lose weight. So I took that to the extreme and only ate pasta, drank Crystal Light iced tea, no vegetables, really very little protein. And I started losing my hair. So my mom started taking me to doctor to figure out what was wrong. Looking back, it's very obvious. But we went to an alternative medicine doctor. Some doctors told me it was female pattern baldness and I better get used to it. And I just remember sitting in the alternative medicine doctor's office, and the first thing she asked me was, what do you eat? And when I told her, we realized I was malnourished, and I also had food allergies. So I'm allergic to red meat and snapper and salmon. So as a kid, I would eat and be very sick after I ate. So the fear of food in me is, I get it.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But then I realized at a young age that what we put in our body affects everything about us. It affects our skin, our hair, our nails, how we feel. So I went to school to become a dietitian. And then after I graduated, did my internship, got my degree, I went to culinary school because it's so important to, like you said, food doesn't have to be boring.
Right.
So learning how to make things delicious and flavorful, and you should enjoy your meals. Like, to be honest, it shouldn't be a miserable experience, especially with our loved ones when they are going through dementia or having difficulty swallowing and chewing.
Right.
We want food to be appetizing, I mean, we could get into that too, because it's really important.
And of course, appetizing is most important, because when you crave foods, it's because you crave that taste. So yes. I feel bad for people that lose their sense of smell or taste, because then food does become a burden sometimes. Yes. Or even those, like you mentioned, that can't swallow. Sadly, if you have to puree certain things, it still has to taste good. It still needs to look good. It's got to be presentable to eye and the palate.
Yes. And I think we eat with our eyes first. And I always say it, puree diet, it's ugly, but it doesn't have to be ugly. I know nowadays the food companies make foods that are molded to look like certain things, but it's helpful because honestly, I mean, just think of yourself. Do you want like a spoonful of pureed chicken in front of you? It's going to look nasty. Mm-hmm. However, if you make it into like a soup, which, it looks better. It's more
Right.
appealing. You're more
Right.
apt to eat it
Mhm.
versus just the slops of like scoops, ice cream scoopers of mashed potatoes
Right.
and broccoli. Like,
And looks like
no.
glue. Right. So that
Yeah.
is important. And I think that's the biggest thing. I know when we talk to a lot of our caregivers, whether it's a spouse or a child, they're always saying, you know, one of the things I really want your caregiver to do is encourage my mom to eat. Place good looking foods in front of her, try and figure out what she likes to eat.
Yes.
And things that have to be, because it does affect the brain. It does affect them.
Yeah.
It affects their sugar levels that, you know, and I'm sure you find the same. So what are your suggestions for those types of things?
And I've noticed too, because I did work in nursing homes. I had a grandmother with Alzheimer's, so I've been around the block a few times with this. And I've noticed that as people get older, for some people, not all, I'm not going to generalize, but they like their sweets.
Yes. Yes.
Ice cream and
Yeah.
puddings. So I'm like, okay, we have to work with it. So if someone does want the ice cream, how could we add protein to it? Or how could we add more nutrients to it? Well, maybe we could add protein powder to it, or maybe we could add like a peanut butter sauce to it.
Mm-hmm.
We could, you know, make ice pops and like a smoothie type thing and add vegetables to it, add protein to it. So at least they're getting the nutrients that they need. So everybody's happy. Your loved one is happy because they're eating what they kind of want, but you're happy too because they're getting the nutrients that they need. So
and as they age, what do you think? What are the things that they should focus on more? Like, what are things as they're aging that they should really be eating more of?
Protein.
Okay.
Protein and calories, especially if they're not eating much. You know, if they have dementia, they forget to eat. Like, you want to make sure that every time they're eating, they're getting as many calories in as possible. Mm-hmm. So now's not the time. It's depending on the situation, obviously, but you know, making everything they eat worthwhile. So if you're making mashed potatoes, add the butter, add the cheese, add the sour cream to it. You could add protein powder to it. So even if they do take a few bites, at least they're getting a lot more nutrients to it. The shakes and smoothies are great because if they're tired and fatigued, the chewing and swallowing, it makes you even more tired. So drinking shakes is easier. So having any of the brand high calorie shakes, and you could add things to it also. You could add avocados to it. You could add fruit to it. You could add vegetables to it. Use it as a base. And then, you know, oomph it up a little bit.
Right. And I had heard too once before, I believe it was Josh Friedis. He is somebody that is just great. He's got great ideas of what to do with our seniors, but he even said you can get like those little mini muffin tins and get like cornbread mix and put, you know, mix it with mixed vegetables and chop up chicken or whatever and stick it in those little mini muffin tins. So they think they're getting a muffin, but it really is filled with proteins and nutrition and vegetables. And
absolutely. And they do sell some frozen ones that are full of nutrients, like I don't know, like just name brands wherever you are, look for them. They do have, and you have to go with what they want too. You know, I feel one of the biggest things is that families fight. Because they love their loved ones and they want the best for them. So the biggest thing is that they make food and then their loved one doesn't want to eat it and they're yelling at them, you need to eat it, it's so important. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to eat. So to prevent that, I'm into preventing the fights. Small little meals. Like it doesn't even have to be meals because the looks of food could turn people off. So putting like a big, I don't know, a sandwich in front of someone, just the look of it could turn them off.
Might be overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. I like, just think if you don't feel well and you don't want to eat, so throw food at someone, it's gross. But if you cut the sandwich into little pieces, like 4 pieces or 6 pieces, and put that one little piece in front of them,
it's not so much.
And they finish it, they feel more accomplished. Like, wow, it wasn't that bad. I'm still hungry. Can I have more? And then the family is happy that they're eating. So even using shot glasses, using the little plates, like all those things help. Like one of my things is telling people to set the alarm clock, even for your loved one. If they're forgetting to eat, set the reminder if they have the phone, and you could even put in like why it's going off, because sometimes you set an alarm and
That's
you're
a good
like,
idea.
okay, why is it going off? But if it's like 12 o'clock, eat lunch, they'll remember, oh, okay, I have to eat, just to help so they don't forget. Because, time flies, and then you don't eat. So it's better to do a little at a time, every half hour, every hour, eating something. It adds up throughout the day.
Right. Because with your brain, especially with dementia, your brain is now doing something completely different. It's chemically changing, it's physically changing, that very often that's why they don't think to eat, because their brain isn't telling them that they're hungry.
Yes.
So for something to go off like that, like an alarm, or give them smaller issues, or smaller amounts. I know you had mentioned too with the families fighting. I think with anything, it can be a shower, it can be eating, it can be drinking water. When you make an issue out of something, now you've made an issue out of that task. And now that task is not going to be fun. If it's a shower, now they don't even want to step in the bathroom. If it's to eat a meal and you're going to sit there and force it, now they don't even want to sit down and eat. So not to make a big deal out of it. Do the little sandwiches or do the little mini muffins. Another thing I had learned too in my Alzheimer's class is what they visually see. So the very last color that they see actually is lime green. The very last thing that they taste is sweet. So that's a lot of times why they want sweet things. But how you display it on a plate, if you put a white sandwich on a white plate, they're not going to see it. They're not going to see it. So if you used a color plate, put the sandwich, and like you said, cut it up into little bits and pieces, it's going to be more visible for them to look at. So that's a great idea, just to cut them up and make them smaller on a plate that they can see.
And I like food presentation. I mean, if you present it nicely, like even if you chop a sandwich into like triangles and lay them on top of each other, so it's like a little height, at least it looks pretty.
True. You're right. You're right. And I'm sure just with you dealing with nutrition, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see, or what are the things that you can suggest as far as nutrition for all of us, really? I mean, not all of us can be a caregiver for anybody of any age. What is the biggest thing that you think most should hear about?
I think one thing I want to just say is that the caregivers, you need to take care of you too.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing, is that you are important, because if you start feeling sick or not able to take care of someone, like what is your loved one going to do? So it is important for you to take time to eat, take time for self-care, do what you enjoy doing. And it's okay to say no, or maybe later, but you need to take care of you first.
Yes.
Because no one else will.
Right. And you're right. If a caregiver isn't, we like to use the phrase, you're only as good as, an empty cup. If you're an empty cup, you're not going to fill anybody else's. So it's good to take that time for yourself and to make sure, and you can get busy too. You get so busy, you forget that you didn't eat anything, because you're so busy making sure the person that you're caring for is eating.
Yeah.
So high in nutrition. So you would say protein is one of the biggest things that our seniors need to look at.
Yes, protein is important. And also for the seniors, depending on the situation of what's going on, fiber is important. So if someone's I hear constipation all the time.
Right.
So making sure that you're eating enough fiber, drinking enough water to help everything move through. And the other one is having diarrhea.
Right.
So in that sense, you want to do a low fiber diet. And I see diarrhea often when I was working in my nursing home, is that everybody this was a while back, but everyone who was diabetic got the sugar-free food. So they were getting sugar-free ice cream, sugar-free Jell-O, just sugar-free everything, sugar-free juice. But then they add the artificial sweetener in it. So now they're wondering, wow, all my patients have diarrhea. Oh. Yeah, you're giving them all these diet foods, and your body doesn't absorb it. So it just comes out. So that causes diarrhea. So you need to be careful too.
So how do you prevent that?
Stop eating the diet stuff.
Yeah. Oh, true.
That's one of them. Sometimes it's medication that could be causing diarrhea.
But the sugar, so if they are diabetic, then what would you feed them if you're not giving them the sugar-free products?
They can eat regular carbohydrates. You just want to pair it with protein. So let's just say they wanted rice or pasta. It's fine to have, just pair it with protein. But you have to also think too, it goes back and forth. If you have a loved one who's not eating much, and all they want is ice cream, give them the ice cream. And if they don't like the sugar-free stuff, you know, we got to pick our battles. Like, I'd rather them eat and get the nutrients in, and we could worry about blood sugars another time. But just making sure that they are eating the fiber, if they are eating carbs, eat it with protein and fat, because it won't raise the blood sugar as high. So if someone does want pasta or rice, I just don't want them to eat it by itself. Maybe add like chicken with the rice, or have a meat sauce with the pasta. It won't raise your blood sugar as much. So,
and don't they make, I've looked online for some of our clients that's all they want to do is eat ice cream. They make supplemental meal replacement ice cream cups that look like, in fact, they gave those to my mother, because that's really all she wanted to eat at the end. And then she was excited that she got to eat ice cream, but really it's a meal replacement. And I think it stimulates their appetite, I believe, or no, I don't remember.
I mean, sometimes it does. And there's even ones like the ice creams that are thick and liquid. So the people who are on thick and liquids, on nectar thick or honey thick, they have puddings and honey thick, like ice cream type products that they can eat too. Because that becomes a whole other issue if someone's on a thick and liquid. It's really harder for them to get the liquids in. Because just think for yourself, like, are you going to drink water that's the thickness of honey?
I know.
It's hard to get in. It's like...
Right. And in fact, they have a new product, and I've talked about it before on my show and on my social media. It's called Jelly Drops. And they're little round, actually, I think they come in square. They're 99%, I believe, hydration. They have a little bit of electrolytes in it, and they're sugar-free. They're all different colors.
Oh, cool.
We ordered them and tried them. And it's, so for somebody that maybe has to have a thickener with their liquid, or isn't wanting to drink, especially in South Florida right now, it's 100 degrees outside. It's hot.
It's so hot.
3 of those jelly drops a day will keep them hydrated throughout the day. And they've got all different colors and all different flavors. And it's thick. It's like when you eat it, it's like a piece of Jell-O. So
awesome.
It's a great way to keep them hydrated. And the same thing, if you're not hydrating, the food isn't passing through you.
Right.
You know,
and also, especially now with the hot weather, eating the fruits, like eating the watermelons, eating the foods that are high in water content. I mean, all your fruits and vegetables have water in it. So it's great to fill up on those foods just to get some extra hydration. And with hydration too, I know soup isn't, you know, it's hot down here to eat hot soup, but soup also helps with hydration. So it doesn't have to be just plain old water. Your soup counts as fluids, your Jell-O counts as fluids, your ice pops count as fluids. So all those things, it doesn't have to be just plain old water for hydration.
And I know Pedialyte also offers popsicles.
Yes.
I do know that's also very high in electrolytes. And I think if you get too many of those, that can give you diarrhea too, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to be careful with that.
You do. Yeah. I've had people that I know, they're like, oh, I work outside, I need to hydrate. And they took like 7 of those powdered and forget about it. They were not happy.
Yeah. And they're called like IV. Yeah. My girls and I actually were just in New York, walking around New York, and it was so hot that we would do one of those in the morning, but that was it. Because otherwise, whatever in that wipes you completely out. It's not worth it.
Just one a day is perfectly fine.
Right. But, you know, I love hearing just what you do and why you do it. And the nutrition aspect for anybody really is so important for all of us to really look at what we're eating and why we're eating it. And, you know, emotional things can come into play. You may crave certain things during certain times of the month, or maybe you had a bad day. And so you're looking more for comfort foods, and you're going to end up eating maybe more carbs than you should be eating. But nutrition is important. And you're the one that is the expert on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember taking care of my grandma and going through it. Like, it's very stressful, you know. Just when I moved down here, I lived with them for 2 weeks, and I saw what was going on, and I called my dad as soon as I got there and be like, I have to get out of here. This is way too much. And here my grandfather was 80 years old taking care of my son. Like, he needed to take care of himself, but all he did was take care of her. So it is very stressful. And then I saw him, he wasn't eating because he was so worried about her. He's losing weight. I'm like, Grandpa, you need to eat. Like, you know, I don't care what it is, even if it's the meal delivery services or the frozen meals. Like, listen, you have to do what's easiest for you. You don't have to cook big meals. There are great and healthy meals that you could buy at the supermarket in the freezer. I'm not going to back
are there some that you suggest over others? Because I know sometimes they'll do the meals that are delivered to the home, or they have the I think one's called Hello Fresh. There's some that can be delivered that aren't, but then they still have to prepare them. But are there ones that out there that are better than others that you know of?
I mean, there are some companies that deliver the meal straight to you, so you don't have to prepare them. I mean, I do like where you have to prepare, just in my dietitian brain, because it's teaching you how to make something. So you could always take this recipe and remake it, and you're learning from it. So I take it as a learning experience.
Right.
Versus just the meal being delivered. You're not really learning anything.
That's true.
But in situations where you're tired, you don't feel like cooking, you know, some of these meal delivery services aren't, everyone's like, well, they're very expensive. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. You know, for $9 for a meal to be delivered to your house really isn't that bad. I order in Chinese food for 3 people. Exactly. And it's, you know, 60, 70 bucks. I could have gotten 3 meals for $30.
Right, right.
So you have to weigh it out a little bit. But the meal delivery services, there are great ones. Or even just buying frozen meals at the supermarket. True. Just look at the sodium content. Right. Buying frozen vegetables are great. Buying frozen fruits are good, because then you don't have to worry about it going bad.
Yeah, at least that is a good idea. Yeah,
it's done. Even when I cook, I take advantage, and I'm like, okay, let me make a little extra, so when I don't feel like cooking, I have frozen meals in the freezer.
That's great. That's great. And you're right. I think pricing is a lot of it too. I've seen often where, you know, you're driving around and you've got a bunch of appointments and you're starving and you want to get something to eat. It's so much easier to go and get garbage through the drive-through versus, which will cost you, you know, whatever, $9. Or you can go to the grocery store and get a pre-made salad or something that's healthier there, but then you're looking at $25. So sadly, to eat healthy, you really have to plan ahead, because if you get stuck where you're out driving around, you're going to spend a lot more money getting something healthy versus going through a drive-through and eating garbage.
Yeah, I think planning is so important. Planning and prepping are my 2 biggest things, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. What's that line? But
I love it.
It's true. And if it's like prepped, I am the biggest prepper, because I could cook you like, if you wanted to come over right now, I could make you a lunch in 5 minutes. Why? My quinoa is already cooked. My peppers are already chopped up. My chicken is already cooked. My mushrooms are already cooked. I could just now heat it up on the stovetop, add a little maybe soy sauce or something.
Right.
We're done. It's all done.
Right.
So like having things prepped and ready, because if it's not there, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm starving. What am I going to do? And what am I going to do? I'm going to order out, or I'm going to, you know, drive somewhere and pick something up. And most likely it's not going to be the healthiest thing. I mean,
exactly.
It depends. But if things are prepped and ready, you're more likely to eat it. Just like fruits, you know. Okay, let's say we're sitting here and I'm starving. Am I going to be like, oh, well, let me go cut and clean a watermelon?
Right. No.
I'm not. I want to grab whatever is easiest. So if there's a bag of chips or pretzels that's already there, I'm going to reach for that. However, if the watermelon was already cut in my refrigerator, which it is, I'm going to grab that. So having things prepped and ready. And the supermarkets now are great. Yes. They are a little bit more pricier, but you could buy things already chopped and done for you. Like hard-boiled eggs, they have that already made. They have the vegetables. Even at Publix, you know, if you wanted a carrot and you wanted it, I don't know, like spun or like in the noodles, they do it for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are ways to go around it. Just to have things
being proactive. It's just being proactive, like you say. So even as a caregiver, we can encourage the family members, like you said, prep a few meals, put a few of them in the freezer. They're not going to want to eat the same thing 5 days in a row anyway. So if you make 3 or 4 different things, stick the leftovers in the freezer. They can pop them out, thaw them out, stick them in the microwave. They're, you know, whatever it is. But you're right; they've got to be proactive. And
some of the supermarkets now have like meals that all you have to do is throw it in the oven, like where they have the salmon, they have maybe rice and broccoli, and all you have to do is throw it in the oven, or even getting a rotisserie chicken.
Yes.
Oh my God, how many meals, how many things can you make from that rotisserie chicken?
I know. So many things.
So many things, and you don't even have to cook the chicken.
Right.
So you could add it to soups, you could make tacos with it, you could make stir fries with it. I mean, it's endless what you could do, and it's saving you time and energy.
I know.
Like, it's done for you.
Right. And it's just being organized, and it's just listening to somebody like you, for them to tune in and listen to this and think, really, that could be very simple. If I just sat down on Sunday and figured out what I wanted for the week, make it in advance, and then you're not panicking trying to get something at the very last minute that might not be healthy. But you're right.
Yeah. And I have my staples. Like, I know, you know, every week I make my hard-boiled eggs, my mushrooms, my quinoa, and my chicken. Like, that's staples that you will always find in my refrigerator, because then there's so much I could do with it.
Yes, yes.
And it's done.
And it's done. And so now, if somebody wanted to learn more about, you know, what you do, or would like some direction or guidance from you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram. I do focus on people who have been touched with cancer, so that's why my name is cancer.nutrition.coach, but I do help people with, you know, cancer prevention and other things.
Right.
My website is flavorfulnutrition.com. And you could always email me, Stacy at stacyrobertsrd.com. I'm here to help. I've been through it. I've seen it. And it's tough. I'm not going to lie. And it is, the toughest part is, yes, I'm in Florida. It's like the opposite of my family. I'm here in Florida and my family is in New York. And I know, I've been through it. The stress when your family is not here and your loved ones are far away. And you're having to deal with your mother, your father, your whoever, your loved one in the hospital, and you're down here trying to make plans and figure things out. It is so stressful. It is annoying, but it's great to have people there to help guide you through it. I mean, I've cursed a lot of people out up in New York because it's frustrating, because you're trying to place somebody in like a rehab center and nobody's helping. You know?
And I think that's the whole purpose of the show, is to get, for all those that are listening and viewing, is to let them know there are strategies out there. There are people like you that can help. We also encourage for you to, if you've got questions out there for Stacy, to put them on our Facebook page. You know, when we post it, put whatever questions you have right on the Facebook page or Instagram. You can private message so that I can get them right to Stacy. But I think it's most important for people to know that they can reach out to you if they
absolutely.
Because everybody has their own issues, whether it's a sugar issue, whether it's a, you know,
cardiac issue,
intolerant, a what?
Cardiac issue, lactose intolerant, food allergies. I mean, it's endless what could go on. And especially if you have, your loved ones are down here in South Florida. I know the supermarkets down here. I know the meal delivery services. Just help guide you in the right direction of how to help.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love it. And you're easy to listen to. You're easy to learn from. You're fun. You're out there and you're out to help. And I think, you know, just having a big giant heart and being compassionate is really what most caregivers just need that right now. And sometimes they're afraid to reach out, or they don't even know who to turn to. So I will make sure that they put whatever questions they have, that they send to me, private message, or if they're able to get on your website again, that would be great. And hopefully you'll be able to help a lot of people out there, because I know you've always got something. I've learned a bunch of things from you after a couple of times that I've heard you. I've learned a bunch of things.
I feel like food should be fun. Like, it's one thing that we all have to do, and it should be an enjoyable situation. Like, it shouldn't be miserable.
It shouldn't.
So that's what I'm about. Like, trying to make food fun and delicious.
For all ages. For all ages. Good.
For everybody.
Well, thank you for everything. Thank you for sharing some time with us today. We look forward to having you on again. But in the meantime, if there's any questions that anybody has, feel free to reach out to us. You can private message. You can put things on our Facebook page. But we look forward to hearing from all of you. And thank you for all that you taught us today, Stacy.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today on Senior Strategies. We hope that you found the tools and the strategies that we offered you beneficial for your journey as a caregiver. We want you to leave today feeling empowered and supported.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for upcoming shows and events. For more information, to schedule a consultation, or to join a support group, please contact us at 561-800-6654.
And remember the strategies
and tools you can use
to make your journey easier.